off myself in just a few minutes.
Alright, bud, no worries. Where do you want to start?
Whatever you want to do. We're all ears.
Okay, I know that Jin mentioned about farming, so we can go over that. I will screen. Takes a while for Discord to recognize that I've actually shared my screen. There we go.
Hi, Hijacker. Welcome. The sheriff is sharing his screen in Discord if you want to click in on that.
Alright. We'll do it on Yavin first, but it applies to basically every map. The only thing that differs is the amount of shit in the way that knocks the AI off their path. So the Empire should always get there first with the farm, right? Because they've got the shunt ships, and bombers are just, they can maintain an average speed of like above 200, whereas the Y-wing can only maintain an average speed of like 160 tops-ish. So it makes it difficult, and especially given the profile of the Y-wing, but you can still have a lot of fun with it. Do you guys do dumbfires?
Some of them, yeah.
Okay, cool. Personally, I don't. I think it's basically just pointless, and if it's not pointless, then it's just a waste of orcs. And this is my kind of standard approach for Yavin. So you want to hug the top of the clouds, aim for this first pack. I know it's only a 4-pack, but still. And then at 2000, kind of try and dunk down. Just long enough to stop the missiles coming in.
Sure.
And there goes those 4, and then you want to immediately look for his 3rd pack, which is here. Okay, that's a bit split for some reason. The way that I've kind of farmed so quickly is that I learned to do it on my own. So I didn't actually have a second bomber pilot with me, because the standard comp that we ran in the Cartel was 3 flex, 1 bomber, 1 support. So that meant I had to be as good as 2 pilots.
Okay.
So I shouldn't be, but in a lot of cases that's true. And it's just a case of how you manage the AI. So I've actually mucked this up a bit because now I'm on attack. But if I... No, we can still follow it round. So if you're on Empire now and you're looking to defend, you need to know where the AI actually are. And what they do is they always go in the same place, right? The path is always the same. They've got 3 paths, and there's 3 packs. So you've got the AI paths that are in the opening engagement, and they kind of like circle around in this mid zone. They literally just do circles. One in the mid, one on the left, one on the right. And then when you're on defense, they do the exact same thing. They still go in circles, but the only thing that differs is where they do that. So you'll just see these lot go around in a circle. And if you know where the circles are, it means that you can farm effectively because you know where you need to be. And another thing to note when you're actually farming as a duo or a trio is you need to mark which pack you're actually going for. So say I'm after this pack, I'll mark that, and then I'll fire it off. That way, I mean, it can get a little bit confusing for everyone else because there's a lot of information, a lot of pings going on the field. But it signals to the other farmers that you've already fired off payload or you're about to fire off payload for this particular pack so that you're not overlapping each other. So there has to be coordination on it.
On the premise of coordination there, so we in the EH do that a lot.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed sometimes is that if we try and ping it too far out, then we might say, oh, I'm going for this pack, and from a distance they look like they're stacked, but we think they're maybe a pack behind. Would you recommend pinging when you get closer so that way you can make sure you're differentiated?
Yeah, you can ping when you're closer. That's always best, to be honest. It's like, so there's this pack here. I know that it's in range, so I'm going to ping it, and then I'm going to go for it. And then I'm going to peel, and I'm going to go for the next pack. It's unless you're making like a really long approach, and by that I mean in the opening phase when you're coming in as Empire or Rebels, and you're like, right, I need that pack right there, and then that way it signals early on. But you don't really need to do that as long as you do it somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 meters, so that you're ready for your ordnance. Because everybody's going to be at slightly different positions on the map.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to do it before you're actually in range of them, but not too far that it would cause confusion with which pack's actually which, because they fly on top of each other sometimes. So yeah, do that. That's definitely good. Another thing as well is when the AI, you see how they're turning there? When you fire off your multi-locks, you need to do it just before that they turn. That's how you get the kills. Because killing an AI, shooting a multi-lock at single AI, oh, that'll kill it, but if shooting a multi-lock at AI won't do anything in terms of killing it. It'll damage it to about 80, 85 or something, but it won't actually kill it. So what you have to do is you have to wait for them to, or you, not wait, but because of the flight time of the multi-locks, but you have to know when they're about to turn so that you can fire off the multi-locks and it hits just as they turn so that you get the splash damage. It's the splash damage that secures the kill.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that.
So they're just turning now, and I only got 2 out of 3. Or 2 out of 4, sorry. Another thing to note when you're actually trying to attack the AI, let's say that this is coming straight towards me. You want to, everyone knows that you need to aim for the middle one for the Goliath, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to come at it from an angle, like from here or there or there or there. Because what it does is it forces the tracking on it is trash for a Goliath. It forces it to, like, I'm doing this the wrong way around, but it forces it to kind of loop round it, come round, back around, and then it'll go and actually shoot the AI. So, especially in the opening phase, this can cost you anywhere. Excuse me. This can cost you anywhere between like 2 and 5 seconds, which is a long time. But the biggest thing is just knowing where the AI are going to be, where the paths are, so that then you know where you need to be, so that you can get them in. A really good map for something like that is Galatan, because you have to wait for the packs to be formed for it to actually. Where is it? You have to wait for them to be formed-ish before you can start unloading in them. Now, do I wait for lock-on with the multi-locks on all 4 of them? Not all the time. Sometimes I fire off 1, 2, 3, depending on the situation. So first things first, you guys should learn the opening farm. That's the first thing. The second thing is learning where the defensive line for the AI is, and then try and figure out where each of the individual paths are, so that you can maximize your positioning for it. Now, sometimes with the farm, it's actually better to not shoot some of the farm, which sounds counterintuitive, but it works, because what you want to do is you want to wait for the AI to form back up. Because if you're flying around and all you're doing is rotarying down AI, then it's not very efficient. So sometimes it's best to wait just a few seconds. It's not long, but you can wait a few seconds. Try and look for a different pack, and then come back to the pack that you just left. I'm doing this wrong. I need to go die. And I hopefully need to do it again before the timer stops. Yeah, I should have enough time, I hope.
Just pilot air into the Star Destroyer.
Yeah, that's true. That'll do. Loadouts do matter, but at the end of the day, as long as your approach is solid, then it's gonna matter a lot less. Actually, let's do that again. Let's pilot error again, so we got a bit of playroom. Oh yeah, it's only 5 points, isn't it? Oh well. So on Galatan, if I kind of trace the path using my flight, I know that there's a group of AI that kind of take this path. They fly around in a circle around Alpha, as they are doing now. I know that there's a second pack, which is here, I think. Is that the second or third pack? Well, there's a pack that does it in the middle, and then there's a pack that does it here. Oh, that was it, yeah, so that was the other pack. And these guys go this way round. Around here. And then we're back at the start. And then that other group that we just saw, they go around the middle bit like this. So, when you're lining up your packs, especially on Galatan, the thing that I like to do is I go for this one first. I peel round. I look for this middle pack. And then I go for the pack over here. And this is how you're maximizing your farm. Because you're going from one side of the map to the other. But along your way, you're getting as much farm as possible. So Goliath first. Goliath always first. And then multi-locks afterwards. Because otherwise what you have to do is you have to wait for the lock-on, which means that, you know, it's an extra 4 seconds. So again, in the opening phase, this is why it's Goliath's always first.
So in essence, you can just keep flying back and forth across the frigates here.
Yep, so this is your safe space. This is your fun zone. You're just gonna go literally just backwards and forwards, mopping up AI as you see them. Now, if you can see, I've got it in the middle of my targeting computer now. The little circles, the red circles, that's the AI. So what you can do as well is, if you can't see any AI, then you can try and look on your targeting computer for a cluster of those little circles, and that'll tell you where you need to go. Because obviously sometimes the just flying around across the map and knowing where the paths are isn't enough. Sometimes you need to actually find them the old-fashioned way, I guess.
Yeah.
And it'll just help you out. It's another thing to look at, and it's another thing to kind of worry about, because it takes your eye off of where you're going, but yeah. It's a useful tip. Useful trick. Because they go it's very difficult to see, but some of them are slightly, so if we look over here, the AI over there are slightly darker in color on the targeting computer, and that's because they're out of range. So in essence, the targeting computer does actually tell you everything that you need to know, but if you don't need to look at it, then you can focus on where you're going and what you're doing, rather than on that.
Now, the AI, if I remember correctly, will respawn staggered if you don't take out the full group of 5.
When an AI dies, it respawns. Doesn't matter if it's taken out as a 5 or as an individual.
Got it.
So yeah, it will come out staggered, but this is why I say that you just fly across and then back, so that you can allow the AI time to get back in formation, so that you can capitalize fully with Goliaths and multi-locks. Now, if you're running 2 bombers, then this presents an interesting situation where, okay, let's say that the scenario is perfect, something like Yavin, and let's say it takes 40 seconds for the AI to respawn. It doesn't, but sometimes it takes more than 20 seconds. So on Yavin, it takes like somewhere between 15 and 20 seconds for the AI to respawn and then get back into position. To get back with their formation, that is. Um, shit, what was I saying before though?
The 2 bombers.
Yeah, the 2 bombers. Thank you. So
Skipping this level.
when you've only got 3 packs of AI, right? Which means that you need a primary farmer and a secondary farmer. Now, the primary farmer's job is basically to farm the entire time. And the secondary farmer's job is to look for an
Gone upstairs
opportune...
to Paula Grayson,
Sorry?
and then forgot. We were talking about boiling penne and everything.
So it's the second farmer's job to get the 3rd pack and
So
then do
in
something
my head,
else.
I was like, "Oh, we're getting tempura tonight."
Sorry?
We've been talking about for 2 days now.
Is that a separate conversation that's going on?
Apparently.
Sorry, I forgot I wasn't muted.
No worries, bud. No worries. So yeah, secondary bomber, get the farm, that 1st pack, and then go do something else for 20 seconds. The kind of standard approach for what to do is melt the raider. Just dig into it. Oop, that was a bit too much. So yeah, that's how you approach your defenses for your farm and your bombers. Now, even if you do all that like fantastically, sometimes the AI are still staggered, they're still screwed up, they're just not playing fair. In those kind of situations, just don't bother to keep your ordnance. Just use it. There's no point waiting for a perfect pack if stuff is just not going your way. Because, especially on a map like this, it can take a really long time for AI to actually get through all of this when bouncing between attack and defense phases. Especially when you're trying to farm as Empire. Now, obviously the farm is going to be faster on Empire because you can move faster, so you can get into position quicker, but the way that the AI form for Rebels it makes it more difficult. Like, this flying V formation means that they're a lot wider than the Empire. One thing that I see a lot of people do as well is they fire off Multilocks and Goliath at the same pack. Please don't do this. It's a waste of ordnance, and it just means that you're slowing down the rate of morale that your team can achieve. I think that covers it for farm. I guess the only other thing that's important is... Oh. Even when the frigates are down, it's important to note that the AI don't actually move their flight paths. So you see where they're flying around here? They go around these circles on this side, just as we mentioned on the other side. They don't move. The only thing that moves is everything else. So the players and the flagships come forwards. They come closer to each other. So you don't have to look for 6 different places for AI. You've just got to look in one place and stick to it. Now, when you're on frigate defense, the AI are actually behind your frigates, which puts your farmers in a nice little pocket of support, because if anybody tries to attack you, then they're getting really close to the flagship, and they're also behind your front line, essentially. But when it's flagship attack, then that changes slightly, because the AI is still there, but even though the flagships move forwards, there's nothing else protecting your farmers. So that's why it's important for flexes and supports to support the farmers where it's needed. And that should do it for the farm, I think. So yeah, as long as you've got one primary farmer, one secondary farmer, and they know what they're doing at any given time, then you'd be golden. Sometimes the call might be made to melt Raider because it flips the face. And that should mean that the primary farmer also comes off farm job and helps melt the Raider.
So would it be appropriate at this point to talk about just like evasion and orbiting, since you're kind of in that mode at the moment?
Yeah, can do. I will go over a little bit of the kind of anatomy of the thing first. So there's a missile turret there, I think? No, yeah. So right there, that's where you want to plant your Goliaths. So you want to come underneath.
Yeah, we call it the armpit.
Yeah, do that. If it doesn't shoot it out of the sky. And then there's another turret, another rocket turret on top. As long as you shoot Goliaths at those two, then you're stripping most of the turrets off of the frigates and the cruisers. The cruisers, there's 2 missile turrets as well, and they're basically symmetrical because of the profile of this damn thing. But there's one there. No, come on, target. Oh god, that's too fast. There's one on the bottom, which is there. Right, there we go. You fire a Goliath at that, you're taking out 5 turrets. And then there's another one on the top there, and you fire a Goliath at that, and it takes out 5 turrets as well. So, when you're in a TIE bomber, and you're trying to orbit this, the biggest thing... So, I run Slam Engine, right? The biggest thing that you can do with this is always be moving unless you're not under fire. If you're not under fire, then you can just rotary and melt it as much as you want. But try not to stay in a dead drift like this for too long, because it means that the Nebulon can line you up, and it also means players can line you up. So always try and take an obtuse angle.
And Sheriff,
And
when you're shooting Golos at these frigates, the Golo goes where you keep your reticle, right?
yeah, but I don't actually lock on to the frigate. I dumbfire it. So I'll be here, I'll be there, boom. And I've got 3 turrets destroyed on the back.
The one thing with dumbfiring,
Sorry?
it maintains your angle, doesn't it?
Sorry, say that again.
Alright, so when you dumbfire, doesn't it maintain the angle that you're drifting in? So if you do it while you're in a drift, it's actually going to miss. Or it'll go in a
yes.
really different direction.
Yeah, but that's where you can change your approach. So if you drift at the correct angle as you go along something, then what you can do is you can still dumbfire it out, and it'll still hit the thing. It'll go in between the two momentums, because you're going in one direction, the missile wants to go in another, it'll meet somewhere in the middle. So if you time it right, then you'd be good with that. But the biggest thing when actually attacking something in the TIE bomber is your power management. It's absolutely crucial. Now, I run Slam Engine, so I have infinite energy. I know a lot of people run Jet Engine, but I really don't like the lack of damage output that comes with the Jet Engine. So that's why I don't use it. I know there's shunt lag and stuff, but considering Empire hosts, like, every game now, it's not really a problem. And even if there is shunt lag, the only thing that you need to do is just slow down before you initiate your boost drift. Because I'm doing it like super quick at the minute. But if you've got shunt lag, then you shunt and then do that. So it just slows it down a bit. And there's two things that I do in the bomber as well. The first is I keep my power in weapons the entire game. The entire game. Because I always want that to be charging. Because if you can see, I don't know if you can see it in Discord, but next to the boost bar, there's that little blue bar that also charges. I'll waste a little bit of energy so you can see it. Okay, you should be able to see it. You see how it's recharging now? This is why I always keep it in weapons, because you shunt to weapons. If it's not full, it's recharging, and that little blue bar is also recharging. Now, there's a perfect timing thing with this as well. If you shunt too quickly, then you're gonna run out of a lot of energy quickly. Especially if you're trying to shoot lasers as well. You see how it's actually starting to take off some of my overcharge now because I'm doing it too quick. This is what a lot of players using jet engine do. They think that flying like this is okay. It's not, because it means that you don't actually regen enough. So what you actually want to do, if you want to wait for the perfect opportunity, the perfect time for making sure that you don't get any regen energy decay, sorry, you need to wait until your velocity hits about 190. You wait till you hit like 190, then you see that little blue bar starting to regen. As soon as it starts to regen, that's the point that you know that you can initiate another drift and you won't lose energy. I mean, you'll lose energy from the action, but the regen energy will be the same. The only thing, an additional kind of point on that is that if that little bar next to the boost bar is empty, then it takes slightly longer for it to start regenerating. There's like a miniature delay on it. It's really, really small, but it does affect the way that you handle what velocity you need to be at in order to boost shunt indefinitely. So that goes over the way that I manage my TIE bomber, but in terms of actually orbiting things like this, I multi-drift really... Oh, a bit too close. I multi-drift a lot. Like that. A lot of people... Well, I don't know how many people. I don't know. How do you guys feel about multi-drifting?
I do it.
Okay.
I fly the same bomber, so...
Not a big fan of it, but I mean, I know it exists.
I agree that it shouldn't really be a thing, but it is there. So the way that you use this for your dumb fires is... So let's say I'm here, and then I just tap it forwards. And then that guarantees that the Goliath is going where I want it to. Other than that, the only thing that you're trying to do is just either use the frigate to create space between you and a player, or you're trying to create an angle to be able to do some damage. But as long as you're constantly kind of moving and doing something different with your approach, then it's extremely difficult for people to shoot you. I have a general rule with approaching the frigates. If you don't clench your bum whilst you're flying next to it, then you're not close enough. Oh, bugger. Because you want to be close to it so that you've got that, you break those logs. Sorry?
That was a little too close.
Yeah, that was a little too close, yeah. It still happens, but yeah, that's essentially what you want to be going for. Because I see a lot of players go up and down left to right, or they go over the top and they do a loop. So I'll try and I won't actually fire at it because it'll take it off the board, but I'll demonstrate. Let me get there. Okay, so this is what a lot of people do. So they'll come in like this, and then they'll come back round and do the same thing. This puts you in a really predictable pattern. So I would advise against it, unless you know that you're not actually getting shot.
Seems like you're
But-
end up wasting a lot of time with your guns off target too.
Yeah. Because the beautiful thing about this kind of thing, is, sorry, about doing it closely, is that you can take really aggressive angles, and then you can keep turning and keeping your guns on target at the same time. Now, a way to take this a level further is you actually shoot your rotary and you keep firing. So you don't actually take guns off target basically at all. Just for that brief moment while you're trying to change direction. If you don't hit stuff. And that's like a next level thing. You can't do that with a jet engine, because you run out of energy super quick. I'd also suggest not doing it in a bomber if you don't have like reasonable energy to start with. So let's say I've got like half that blue bar and half my overcharged lasers. I probably wouldn't do it. I'd bounce around, regen a little bit, and then I'd go in for it. And then this is my approach for the shield gens. I don't know why that didn't get destroyed. I fired off 3. It was at 3. Okay, yeah. And then once I do that one, what I'll probably do is I'll come back over the top. And then come around here.
Do you approach them from behind?
Yep. I don't like tractor beams.
I don't
I
like
mean-
them either.
This... It's kind of a pet peeve I have. I see people coming in at these kind of angles and going for it anyway. That's okay if you're a defender, but as a TIE bomber, you really don't want to risk getting caught by the tractor. So I go underneath, spin round, line up, use my multi-drift, wait for 3 lock-ons, fire the 3 lock-ons as well as a Goliath, and then it's down in less than 4 seconds. Because I've actually done the math on it, and you can get it done. If you wait for the 4th lock-on from the multi-lock, then you add a second to your damage. Sorry, to the time it takes to take out the shield gen. And if you've got 2 TIE bombers that are doing this at the same time, then the shield gens drop like instantly.
That's interesting.
In saying this though, with the tractor beams, I don't really care that they're there. Because there's a slight moment where you are actually tracted, but it doesn't really matter, because you can still get out of it quite comfortably. And then just long strafing runs. But as soon as the shield gens are down, I would always suggest taking targeting. Targeting is worth 10% of the hull value of the MC. It's not this. It's not the same as the ISD. The ISD, the targeting is only worth 1%. So as you do damage to the MC's targeting, then it will take off like 1% and 1% and 1%. So it's really, really powerful. It gives you a free. Wow, it just gives you easy damage, really.
Yeah.
And it has the added benefit of when you do take it out, the turrets fire half as much, and the passive damage is half as much to your friendly frigates and flagship as well. Oh, I think we covered a lot there.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Sorry, I kind of got carried away. I think. Do you guys have any questions or anything?
Not really. I mean, you've covered a lot.
Yeah, sorry. But okay, yeah, I'd be happy to like if anyone in the Bees organization watches back the footage or anything, then I'm happy for people to DM me and ask about certain things at certain points.
So I have a question that might be a little bit more advanced, just because that's
Sure.
where I'm at. But so staying evasive in a Y-wing,
Yeah.
which seems to
that's
be
the
a
question,
pain
okay.
in the butt.
Yeah.
How do you approach that? It's a lot more energy management.
Yeah, there's a lot of energy management with it. I will show you. Do it on Yavin, so I've got nowhere to hide.
Parenthesis everyone, if you want to know how to fly evasive in a Y, we watch a Sitka.
Right there.
Apparently, in the SPL match, he was at 0 hull for 2 minutes on a Y wing.
Wow, that's pretty good. That is pretty good. So I'm running reinforced hull, ray shield, and jet engine. I didn't recently, but I did used to run dampener hull. That's my previous build there.
Yeah, that's the loadout I run.
Yeah, but I came to the conclusion that running dampener hull doesn't stop you from being locked. It doesn't stop you from being dunked, sorry, because if you think about it, if you're going to get marked, then all it does is change the lock-on time for an ion missile from 0.5 seconds to a second. So it doesn't really make a difference.
Right.
That's basically the whole reason why I switched, and the fact that the reinforced hull does give you enough health to be able to take a bit of a pounding after you do get ion.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah, because originally I looked at it as though, okay, well, dampener hull means that I'm not going to get ioned, but reinforced hull means that I can survive if I get ioned. So one's a reactive, one's a proactive. But then I looked at the numbers and I went, okay, well, this doesn't really do anything. Because if people are trailing you, then they're trailing you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's not meant to be with them, but...
You know how to pick them. You got it.
I don't know if this is going to work or not. Where's that first pack? What the hell? What is this?
Guys.
The evasion in the Y-wing is all about making sure that your shields are always overcharged. Why am I running out of power? There we go. I was doing it a bit too quick.
Yeah, I mean that's what I found is like the Y-wing. You have to slow down.
Yeah, so your average speed is about 160. But you've got to use your terrain. And in this case, your terrain is a frigate. Oh, bonked it a little bit though. She's got a fat ass! But yeah, like in a Y-wing, you can just keep doing this indefinitely as well. Again, it's all about the timing. Oh god, what's happened there? It's all about the timing with when you boost and for how long for. So in the Y-wing, I will try and shield skip every single time that I boost. Every single time without fail. Unless I'm trying to evade a little bit extra, like that. And then I'll go back to shield skipping. But you want to wait until your drift is about 150, 140. Your velocity, sorry. And once you're at about there, then you know that you're good to start the next drift. Now that doesn't mean that you keep it out of engines. You do a quick little thing, you put it back, and then you go. Now the timings can vary with this quite a lot, to be honest, depending on what you want to achieve at the moment. Sometimes you might just want to keep it in engines so that you've got more regen.
But like in this moment, if you wanted to get your shields back,
Yeah, then you wait for a bit of cover, you regen like 2 bars, and then you just go back to the normal momentum that you had. This is why the shield. This is why this is the way that I shield skip in the Y-wing. It's so that it's not a lot of shields at once. It's short little bits constantly.
got it.
If I don't crash into stuff. And if you run out of energy in a Y-wing, wait until you've got 2 bars left. Two boost indicators. If you do it any lower than that, then you'll be right back where you started, which is not moving.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got someone chasing you, just stick your shields to the back, and then try and maintain something like that. Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to be shooting your ass, not your front. So that means, why are you protecting your front when it's not going to get shot? And then you just rebalance when you need to. Oh,
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Hey,
Hey, dude.
hi Zugzug.
Hey, yeah, how do you keep up your laser energy on your frigate assault phases? So, like, I'll come in and I'll, like, gasp up to the frigate and I'll get maybe half overcharge, right? But then, like, after, like, maybe 2 or 3 passes, like,
Yeah.
it just... I mean, you know, like, so I'll take power out of... Or I guess while I'm doing my passes, right? Like, I'll be... or after I do my passes, I'll be charging up lasers.
Is
and then
this
push it back to
for
the
Y-wing
jet.
or TIE bomber?
For Y-wing.
Standards or rotary?
Standards.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay. You need to just change your power management prioritizations. So it's like, I'm full shields now, so what I can do. I mean, it sucks for rotary because I'm basically never going to get overcharged lasers. but you can just tap it like that. Instead of shield skipping, you're basically weapon skipping.
Right.
And my default state is that, so power into engines with half of it in weapons. That's my default state. Because if it's like that, then you can shield skip, and it also means that if you don't have full lasers, then they're constantly regenerating.
So even doing that, because I'll do that. Like I still burn it out. Like
Yeah, there
after
are
like
a
3
number of
passes,
times.
like I'm like gasping for it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like I'll be able to get it up to like maybe half, 3/4 bar. You know, until I have to like power up jet again.
Yeah.
And then you just burn through it like in like one pass. It feels like. Is that
Yeah.
is that your?
There's no way
understanding?
around it, to be honest. I do the same thing with rotary. Like, I'll have a couple of passes, I'll suddenly have no lasers left, so I'll have to just spend a long time regenerating it. But again, it's the same thing as what I mentioned about waiting for 2 boost bars before trying to initiate another drift.
Yeah, for sure.
If you've run out of lasers, then you need to wait until you've got a few bars of it before you actually start shooting again, because otherwise you're not going to get any.
Yep. Okay. And you're a proponent of what's it called? Rotary on Y-wing.
Yeah, I like it.
Is that a personal preference thing, or is there math there?
I mean, it does do more damage. It's 15%.
Yeah.
But yeah, it depends. Oh no, I think it's actually more than that. The Y-wings rotaries do more damage than the overcharge standards.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like more than 25%. I think it's like 27. So I thought, well, if it's going to take me an entire bar to melt into something, then might as well use a rotary and just have the damage immediately. It's all about managing what you want to do. If you want like burst damage, then it actually makes more sense to do rotary. See, I didn't wait 2 bars there. But yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
But yeah, if you know that you need to sustain something, then I'd probably say standards.
Something that Maze and Fox talked to me about when I was learning how to do this was being intentional about which system you're charging.
Yeah. I mean, so at this point, I know that I'm not using my lasers, right? And I know that I need to keep a good management on my engines, but I also need shields because they're quite low, right? So that means that all I'm doing is just pressing 3 for shields, and then 2, 1 to put it back into. I go 3, and then 2, and then 1. So the priority is the shields. Second priority is engines. And if that needs to change, then I'll just do something like that, or I'll do that, and then that. Sometimes I'll just do this, and I'll just fly around for a second, trying to regen something, and then I'll go back into my movement. So it's all about what you need at that moment.
Setting for out of phase, setting up for out of phase against the ISD. Do you just take those turrets down on that little like neck thing?
On the neck, yeah.
I've seen other people recommend. There's like some other ones like on the bottom, but I don't know. Those are
The
really
ones on the
necessary.
bottom, no. There's 2 on the side.
Yeah, even just getting the neck, you can survive out in the back here for a long time.
Yeah. Like Yeah, you can out phase in the Y-wing. Like, it's nuts. It just depends on the angle. That's all. As long as you're constantly moving so the lasers can't track you, then you're fine. Like, you can take out the turrets, but really it doesn't matter. Just means that there's a couple less things trying to shoot you.
Are there any other turrets that you'll go after for like DPS purposes, like kind of like the auto turrets?
Yeah, so there's a beautiful little spot that I try and... ah, shit. There's a spot there-ish, and that takes out a few turrets. Otherwise, you're shooting them at the turbo lasers.
Turbo lasers, there you go.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, otherwise there's just no real need, because shooting the turrets down doesn't really do anything.
Right. You ever go low like the turbo lasers on the MC-75?
Yeah, it's a lot more difficult to shoot them though. Like, if you get the go low quite just right, then you'll have you'll take out 3 or 4, but you'll never get all 6. Like, I've tried it dozens and dozens of times. You just can't get all 6.
Yeah, I can never seem to do it.
I tend to focus the Goliaths on the back of the MC in case that there's need for an out phase.
Oh, like on the top?
And on the bottom, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just power management. And then mashing the shit out of that button when you do get dunked. I think that'll about do it.
Yeah, I think we've made you talk for like an hour here. So really appreciate you doing this, Sheriff.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Happy to help. Happy to help. Oh god, yeah, like I said, drop me any DMs or anything if anyone's got any further questions or out. And come join me on the game analysis that I'll be doing tomorrow night. Just drop onto the stream, say hi, ask me any questions or whatever.
Great.
Which game are you gonna do?
I've not decided yet. I know that there's been like 4 games today, so I need to kind of go through them and see which one's the juiciest.
Tempest and Baywatch, that's one I suggest.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one, yeah.
I'm very interested to see what happens. I heard Skiller was going mad, but I haven't watched it myself.
Yeah, it was a weird one. It's like 2 out for Tempest. It's like,
Yeah.
it's nuts. But hey ho, a million and one things could have happened. Alright, well, it's late for me, guys, but thanks for having me. It's been fun. I'll see you later.
All right.
So, see ya.
Nice one, guys.
Yeah, cheers.
Sheriff.